investors one way or the other. Good question. Okay, so let's go, let me think here, what this would be the next, if I wanted to go on some of those sites. Well, let's go to this, and I can go back. So you have what's called on-market properties and off-market properties. So you hear that term, oh, it's off-market. So what that means, just as a generic term, when people say off-market, they're meaning that it's not listed with a broker. Normally that's exactly what they mean. They mean that it's not on the MLS, it's not listed with a broker, it's quote off-market. So it would be a generic term that you'll hear, you know, is this an off-market property? And the reason they want to know that is because they know if it's on the MLS, it's got exposure to a lot of people, okay? And that can be, knowing that is valuable, because when I go to sell a property, sometimes I'll list it maybe on Craigslist without going through a broker for maybe just the first couple weeks as we're winding down the project. As soon as it's done, I'm putting it on the MLS, all right, whether it's a flat fee or I'm working with a broker to do it, and they're going to show it because of that exposure. Everybody's out there, competition for it. You can't beat that kind of exposure any other way, as far as I'm concerned. So I always want to sell my property out there that way, whether it's a flat fee or paying the broker fee, because of how quick you can do it and the exposure. But think in reverse though, if I'm buying a property and it's on the MLS, guess what? All that competition, everybody looking, every investor looking for it. So understanding about how to find leads for off-market properties are really important. And you can make a living if you just become an expert on getting off-market properties to investors, okay? So some of the ways that you can do that, first of all, you can advertise to do that. So even before you go on the screen, you know, you see that we buy houses, you see all that, you know, you see all those signs, it's because it works, you know. A guy in our training that was in my study group, he has a sign on the back of his car that says something like "we buy signs" or something like that.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about because you're in the study group.
Papa, something about Papa.
So
Papa buys properties or something like that.
Yeah, so he's got a little sign in the back of his car, and he's driving and he gets a call and says, "I see that you buy properties." He's like, "Yes, we buy properties. Well, could we stop and meet?" And he said, "Well, you know, I'm driving right now." And he said, "Well, I'm driving too. I'm right behind you. Can you pull over and we can talk?" So they pull over to McDonald's. As it turned out, he's an asset manager for Wells Fargo, okay? Asset manager means those REOs that the bank has. He is in charge of, not all of them for Wells Fargo would be too overwhelming, but he has properties that he's in charge of. So he may get access to those properties before they go on the MLS. So advertising as you as a buyer, that's, you know, very important. People that get connected with us in the group, we do a lot of time about what we call building your buyer's list. So building your buyer's list of people that you're going to sell it to, but also building a list in, a pipeline of deals coming in, okay? Marketing is really important. We talk about marketing in this office a lot about whether it's enrolling other students into the program. That's a marketing function, but also marketing yourself, your business, marketing that you buy houses or marketing that you have houses to sell to people that flip properties is very important. So one way to get this information is through public records. You know, public records has things like the notice of trustee sale. You know what that is? What does that have to do with notice of trustee sale?
Foreclosure?
That's a foreclosure, okay? So they haven't paid their taxes, or excuse me, they haven't paid their mortgage. That could be as quick as, let's say, 90 days that they get their notice of default from the mortgage company, and then they set up a sales date of the property if there's maybe a lot of equity and it's a real desirable area, or if the house is not in that great a shape and the bank really doesn't want it anyway, they might, you've heard the stories, well, they've lived in their house for 2 years and never paid their mortgage and the bank hasn't foreclosed them. Maybe the asset's not worth the bank's time and money. So when it comes time, though, to sell that property, the notice of default is public records. I have it's not my program, but the owners of this company, this education company, negotiated with another company that they have a database. We have to pay for it, but it's very inexpensive. I'm going to show you a database that has literally millions of public records for you to search for your county, your city, your area code, whatever your parameters are, and then you can do mailings to people that just got a notice of default. So think how powerful that is. Somebody gets a notice from the county that they have got the sale date, so that they've been issued, or they've been served, that they've been issued this court date, and in 2 months, my house is gonna be foreclosed on, and then the next day, they get a letter in the mail from you telling them that you buy houses with little or no equity. If you're in trouble, please call me. That's pretty powerful, right? It's targeted that market. So I want to show you and show you how actually you can even access that database. If you want to do a mailing, I'll help you do one of those mailings. You pay for the mailing, and I'll help you orchestrate that using the database. Marriages, divorces, both of those is a life-changing experience, right? So you might have 2 people living apart from each other, now they're getting married, they want to buy a house together, okay? Maybe she has children already, or he does, and they need a bigger house. There's some reclosing. You know, divorces, they had 1 house, now they need 2. They need to get rid of that 1 house. So all of those type of life-changing events. List pendants is basically the notice of default in a judicial state. Illinois is what's called a judicial state. It means that in order to get foreclosed on, it has to go through the court system. That's the easiest way to remember it, okay? So it needs to go through the court system. They'll have what's called filing a list pendants. That's basically the notice of default. Deed transfers, that's public records. Liens, mortgages, satisfactions. First I had to look at my notes and I'm like, satisfaction, what was it thinking there? Satisfaction means that when you put a lien, if you satisfy that lien, that's now recorded. If you put a mortgage and you pay off the mortgage, that's now recorded. So things like wanting to know who in a certain area has a house free and clear. Why would you want to, why would that be maybe a good person to sell their house? Why would addressing somebody that owns their house free and clear with no mortgage, why is that a potential good deal for an investor?
Because they have flexibility in terms of how much they accept for it.
They could have flexibility of how much they accept for it. So like, I don't have to cover my mortgage, there's no mortgage. Okay, and what else? Earl, you were gonna, there's other things along that same line.
They can avoid capital gains.
No.
I mean taxes.
No.
Yeah.
If they sell the property, it doesn't matter if they have a mortgage or not, it's based on the purchase
But
price.
if they sell the property and they don't owe anything, you're saying they don't owe anything on the
Right,
house.
right.
Okay, so they sell the property, all the money that they make, they're gonna have to pay taxes on.
Right.
But if you hold on to the property, if they sign it over to you and you're just paying them monthly, they don't have to pay
Okay, that's
that.
different. Okay, what he's talking about is
Is owner
he kind of,
financed?
yes, owner financing is what we're looking for. So he described it, he just didn't, he wanted me to work for that. I don't know. Owner financing, yes, exactly, owner financing. So it does have a tax ramification to it, and that he's only, if your down payment, you're only paying taxes on that, then your monthly payment, so it's over time. But the fact is that they have the ability to owner finance. Okay, it's easy. I'll take $20,000 down, and then you make this payment. Maybe they'll do a balloon. Maybe they'll do a 30-year amortization. But those are 2 of the major reasons why that could be a good candidate for you to find properties that are, reasons why to find properties that are owned free and clear. We've got a whole database of that. So that would be satisfactions. That would be, oh, they had a mortgage, and look, the mortgage is released. That means they own it free and clear. Those are public records as well. So instead of going through public records, which could be difficult, I mean, the Cook County website's actually pretty good, but you have to put in the PIN number, then you gotta kind of look at the history, kind of the chain of title, who owns it, is there, I mean, I understand it pretty well, and sometimes it's even confusing to me, and it's not very well done in there on the transactions in terms of the time frame of which is written off and what's not. So this database called the Renatus iOS system is what I'm really becoming a big believer in. The last time I did this, it didn't, let's see if I can. Yeah, for some reason it doesn't show up on it. See if I can get down through this. Go to the internet. Because this is worth looking at. Oh, there, good, it did pop up. Okay, so when you log in, and I'll read some of these categories to you, but this is a database, and the company that we have the relationship with that provides us, they spent, last I heard, they're spending over $70,000 per month on acquiring this data. So nationwide, they spend over $70,000 a month, and then they charge people to access this data. That's, again, if you use all of it nationwide, it's worth $70,000 a month. So this says absentee owners. What's an absentee owner?
They don't live in the house.
Well, but they don't, because I think they do, you're absolutely right, they don't live in the house, but I think that they have this as the owner of record is out of state, is how they come up with this database. So there's 38 million people there that they have a record of in the United States, that their record of resident is different than a property that they own. Why is that good to maybe solicit to those people?
They might want to unload it.
Yeah, they might be tired of being an out-of-state landlord, or they might not have, they've already moved and they just got that property back there and, oh, I'm gonna sell it someday, it's not even rented out or anything, okay?
38 million?
Yeah, 38 million names of people that are, yeah, registered as absentee. All right, and that's in the whole country, so I'm gonna show you how we can drill down and you can see how many are in Cook County. We'll see how many are in Downers Grove, all right? And you can do a mailing to that target audience, okay? So that's absentee owners. This one is bankruptcies. So that's 3.3 million names of people that have filed for bankruptcy. This one, cash buyers. Why would that be handy to know who the cash buyers are?
Buyers list.
Yeah, build a buyer's list. The cash buyers, normally people aren't buying their primary residence with cash, right? Normally, some will do, they downsize and they do. But it's a good list to market to because chances are a lot of them are investors. And if you wanted to wholesale a property to somebody, you could go and figure out, well, who's cash buyers in this particular area? Maybe they want to buy mine, you know, because you don't have to just, you know, assign the property to me. You could, you know, if you get trained in this, you can do it to anybody, you know, sign it and resell it to anybody. So cash buyers is one. Free and clear, we just talked about that. That's free and clear. So that's people that own their property. They have no mortgage on it. And this is what's mind-blowing. Most people say, oh, nobody owns their property. There's 34.1 million people that they have in their database in the US that owns their properties free and clear. Okay? That's a lot. Okay? And again, when you drill down to an area, there might be 100 people in Downers Grove that you could solicit to. High equity, what does that mean?
They don't owe that much on the house.
Yeah, they owe a lot less than what it's worth. So if the property's worth this much, they only owe this. And you can even put in there and specify, I want people with 50% equity or 75% equity, or you know, you can even pick the parameters of what percent equity. And again, the more equity they have, the more flexible maybe on the price. So that's good to know. The other thing is, an area I like is low equity. All right, now, how is that a good strategy, or what would you use as a good strategy, people with low equity? What are the real estate strategies out there that will work? Some of these you may not know if you're not haven't gone through the training, but the people that have gone through the training, or some part of the training now, you'll know what? Subject to, probably my favorite acquisition strategy for rental property. Subject to, which means that I'm gonna just take over their payments, okay? Now, if someone has a lot of equity and I try to use that strategy, they're going to want probably get paid for that equity. So if the property's worth, let's say in my rental world, I do much lower end properties. So let's say the property's worth $100,000 and they owe $50,000. If I say, hey, I want to just take over your payments for you and you deed over the property for me, they'll say, well, yeah, if you pay me like $50,000, I'll do that, right? And coming up with $50,000 kind of defeats the purpose of the acquisition strategy. So what I do is I look for properties that there's little or no equity, maybe even a little bit underwater. Now I come to that same person and I say, listen, I'll take over your payments for you. You can walk away from this house. You know, you're an out-of-state landlord. You can even cross-reference those lists. You're an out-of-state landlord, or you know, you've moved out and you've got little or no equity. This could be behind you. You can forget about this property, and what I'll do is I'll make your mortgage payments for you, and I'll do that under a signed contract. So I've done that before. The last one I did was just, I mean, probably the most profitable real estate deal I've done in terms of rental. Somebody in the community, it's a good thing about being connected to this education, somebody in the community was just getting started. They found an opportunity, but they didn't know how to execute it. So they came to me for help. And they showed me that this person, it was a family member, they're moving out of state. They're actually underwater, probably 10 to 20,000 underwater. So if they want to move out of state, they didn't want to be a land, and I consulted with them. I laid out all their options, and I really said, well, have you ever thought of just renting the property? No, we don't want to deal with that. You know, we're out of state, we're older, we're retiring, we want to get, they moved to Mississippi. So, Mississippi, someplace south, I think it's Mississippi, yeah. So they didn't want to be an out-of-state landlord. That had no appeal to them whatsoever. So I did a consultation with them on showing what I would be willing to do. Basically, take over their mortgage payments. I would record the deed. That would be $52,000, $52 to record the deed, $52. The gentleman that brought it to me in the community, I told him, listen, he didn't know if he wanted to do it or not. I said, here's the deal I'll make with you. I'll either coach you through this deal, and I'll charge you $1,500 for that, and I'll show you how you can get this property for $1,552, or I'll pay you $1,500 cash, and we do the deal. And I do the deal, and it's my deal, and whatever, you just basically handed it off to me. So again, I'd use the analogy, it's like your kid, and you split the candy bar, and which side you want, you get $1,500 there, or you pay me $1,500, or I'll pay you $1,500. And he chose to get the $1,500 up front, and I take over the deal. Well, I got a renter in there, Section 8 renter, guaranteed rent every single month coming to me, $1,800. The cash flow is about $800 a month. That's just a phenomenal deal. In fact, Pete's been in that property. That's the one in Sauk Village across from the railroad. South Holland across from the railroad tracks. Yeah. So that was a subject to acquisition. We actually did the deal in the garage. It was like in the spring, and it was nice weather, and we had a table out there, and I explained it to them. So anyway, did I help them?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so then I'm thinking, how many other people can I help like that? Is there anybody else I can help that's moving out of state or that doesn't want their property? And you see that's a win-win. Yeah.
So, does the owner still own the house, or now it's your house, and how much should
On
you
a
give
subject
him?
to, there's other things you can do with owner financing or contract for deed, but in this particular situation, they deed the property over to me, and believe me, I teach a whole class, a 2-hour workshop. There's like an 8-hour class on this, on subject to. So there's things you gotta do legally, ethically, how you gotta do it. Don't have time to get into all that, but yes, I actually have that deed in my name. They stay on the mortgage until I either refinance the mortgage, or I pay them off, or I sell the property. So that's how that works. Believe me, it's a great question, because we can spend 2 hours. It's such a good question. Okay, so pre-foreclosure. So pre-foreclosure is anything. A lot of people say, oh, I'm working on a foreclosure. Well, probably not, because a foreclosure is when the actual bank takes it over, and then it becomes an REO. So technically, I don't even know if it's a foreclosure even for a second, because it's a pre-foreclosure up until it actually then gets turned over to the bank, then it becomes an REO. But a lot of times you'll hear that language, it's a foreclosure. That usually means it's an REO is what they're talking about. Pre-foreclosure means everything before the bank, and there's a lot of opportunities. They're in trouble. They might owe, back mortgage payments and interest and penalties. So those pre-foreclosures. So this is the people that have got the official notice of default. So again, that was that example. Got a notice of default in the mail, and a couple days later I'm getting a letter that says we help people that are in trouble with their home. Call me. So that's how that works. Private lenders, people that actually lend money. I'm trying to think how they get this big database. They may get this database because, when you are private lending, we protect people in the first position, and if that first position is not a corporation, or it's maybe not a major corporation that's known, they probably have that on that list. There's 797,000 people in that private lending list. So would that be a good thing to send out to private lenders? I'm doing deals. And the other thing, think about it, you can narrow it down. What's powerful about that is you can narrow it down to the particular area you're in. So if you're going to do a flip in Downers Grove, don't you think you have a better chance of a lender taking a chance on that project with you that lives in Downers Grove rather than in California? Okay? You go on the internet or something, you're trying to find private money lenders, they're probably not in this area, they're all over. But it would be much easier to say, hey, listen, here's this deal. I see you live in Downers Grove. The property's in Downers Grove. Let's go to it. I want to show you. I want to walk through it. I want to show you. And we can even take them to the other projects that you have. So that's powerful. So that's private lenders. And then probate. So things that have gone to probate where someone has passed away and now it's going through probate. So there's a whole list of properties. There's almost 400,000 properties. And that obviously has to be updated and so forth. So anyway, this is a database. Then what you can do, maybe I'll do this real quick. I'll assume that, let's see, what do we want to look at? So for me, working with my stuff, so let's go to pre-foreclosures. So now it calls up, so in Illinois, remember that millions in there, that was around the country. So in Illinois, there's 317,000 and some change of pre-foreclosures in the system right there in Illinois. Then I can go down to county. So what county are we in here? This is
DuPage.
DuPage. So in DuPage County, there's 15,662 people that are, whoops, did I click on the absentee owners? Pre-foreclosures, I did, right? Yeah, pre-foreclosures, that are in pre-foreclosures. Then what I can do, I want to update now, remind me later. Not in the middle of a presentation. You see that popped up on my screen? Okay, so now I can go here and I can select things like, first let's go into city. So let's see, let's see if there's anybody in Downers Grove, since we're here. So in Downers Grove, let's see. You can also do the notice date, when did they get the first notice, so you can maybe more recent people or people that got it longer. So you can pick on that. You can pick the amount, the notice amount. So do they owe 100,000, 200,000, or does it matter to you? Let's just search the whole thing, because I have no idea how much it's going to be populated with Downers Grove. Okay, there we are. And we have 100 and, let's see, it says results. Now I gotta reverse it.
134.
Yeah, 134, and where am I not seeing it? I can see it on my screen. Yeah, right there, yeah. 134 people in Downers Grove that you could do a mailing to that have got a notice of default. Hey, I help people in trouble with their properties. Please give me a call, see if there's something I can do for you. You know, it can be that simple. What's cool is if you do, now you can get the database and you can do your own mailing, or for, and don't quote me on this price, I think it was about $1.60, I'm gonna say, a letter, and that included postage. This company actually has a robot that hand writes, would you call it hand, that's an arm, or,
Yeah,
you know,
a robotic
mechanical
arm.
Somebody
hand,
wrote it
writes
out.
with a pen on a paper so they could actually see the indentation. Once in a while, they even make a little mistake on purpose so that it looks like it was handwritten. So you could send a letter that had handwritten their address on the front of it, handwritten your return address if you want up on the top of it, and that, you know, has like a 300% better chance, or it's astronomical, of them actually opening it up. It looks like a friend of mine just wrote me a letter they sent. So they open it up, and that could be, the letter is handwritten as well. The letter can say, hi, my name is Randy, I'm a local real estate investor, I help people that are having trouble making their mortgage payments, you know, give me a call, I'd love to see if there's something I can do to help you. It could be that simple, right? Okay. So anyway, that's that. You can create a database. I won't go into it because we have so much stuff to cover, but I want you to know that that is available. It's available. Anybody that joins the education can get this. I don't know the exact price. It was $125 when I bought it, but now it's maybe a little higher.
They had a special at Nationals, and then last fall where you were able to get the iOS plus flip comp for $125. But now it's $125 for just the Renatus iOS, and it's an additional $99 for flip comp.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but just the iOS is what I'm showing you. So this is 120.
Per month.
You said 125?
Yeah,
Yeah.
per month.
So that you can, it's still a steal at 125
Yeah.
for just the Renatus iOS, because you can actually do your own comps in here. I'm going to show you how you can do your own comps in this system as well. So finding those comparable properties, I'll show you how you can use this system to do it. And I got started doing this a lot longer than when this has been up and running. This has only been available to us for about a year maybe.
Mhm.
So I had like all my old systems in place, but I'm starting to migrate them over to this system. One thing that this system can also do for you, that again I'm trying to transition over, is that when you do your rehab estimate, you can do your rehab estimate right on the system, and you can even, it links to HomeDepot.com, so you can actually pick out the vanity that you're going to use, and it goes right to Home Depot, and it inputs the order number and the prices. So unfortunately, I'm a little bit more of a Menards guy with some of this stuff, and it just seems like a bunch of the projects, like in Evergreen Park, there's a Menards there, we're doing all these projects around it. So it's probably never going to be integrated into both systems, but there might be a way, I haven't looked at it, that I can import my own numbers and so forth. So I have my own spreadsheets I'm going to share with you to look at. That's got kind of what I pay for, you know, a new kitchen, a new bathroom, and so forth. So anyway, that's how we can generate leads, how you can get leads. And these are, again, off-market properties. So that's one way. The other way is on-market properties, which are things that are on the MLS. And here's what I'll say about that, is you can go to Realtor.com, this is a property that we just got accepted, so I guess I might as well, you know what, I'm gonna do a little bit different here. Let me do this. So here's a couple things that I'll say about buying properties on the MLS. Keep in mind, there's a lot of competition. I think this is very logical, but a lot of people don't get it, and it takes a lot of wasted time for the light bulb to go off. So hear this now and don't waste your time. All right. So if a property's on the MLS and it needs very little work, painting, carpet, that's it, what are the chances that you're going to be able to buy that at a really good price and make a lot of money? Not much, because everybody, in fact the homeowner, if you could make $50,000 by just doing paint and carpet, why doesn't the homeowner do it now?
Right.
If it's a bank-owned property, why doesn't the bank do it now? So I have people bringing me properties on the MLS, and they'll say, "Man, this is a great deal. It needs very little work." Right away, I'm skeptical. I'm like, "You almost lost me 100%, but you at least lost me 50%."
They don't get you're looking for the opposite of that,
Yeah.
really.
So the other thing is, not only am I competing with investors, but I'm competing with the homeowners. If I'm buying a property that a homeowner could buy and live in, and there's just a couple things, I can live in it, and in the next couple of years I could change out the kitchen if I wanted to, but it's functional now, it's good. But you know, if I wanted to put in granite, I could put that in a couple of years. If I'm competing with the homeowner, there's no money in that deal, okay? Because they're gonna pay what it's worth. I don't want to pay what it's worth. I want to pay less than what it's worth, and then I want to improve the property. So if it's listed at $200,000 and a homeowner can say, you know what, we could live in here for a couple of years and then do the changes later, they're going to be willing to pay $200,000. I got to get it for like $125,000. Okay, there's no profit in that. So when you look at something in the MLS, I'm telling you, start looking at the pictures, and you see it needs little or no work. Be skeptical. Have your spidey senses are supposed to go and tingle. What are that? Isn't that Spider-Man? The spider senses? So your spider senses should be tingling. Wait a minute.
Does a ninja tip use your spidey senses?
What's that?
Is that a ninja tip? Use your spidey senses?
Yes.
I'll write that down.
Yeah. So, you know, be skeptical of it. Again, I hear it all the time. People that even done real estate, oh, look at this. It's on the MLS. It doesn't need any work. Right away, I'm like, well, what makes you think they're going to sell it for a really good deal? Now, there could be some extenuating circumstances, and that's why I say I eliminate 50% just like that. But the only reason I'm saying I don't eliminate 100%, I'm going to say, okay, so what's the story with the buyer? Or, excuse me, with the seller? I mean, because it could be, yeah, they've got it underpriced, they need to sell it in 2 days or 3 days. That eliminates homeowners from getting mortgages, where a cash buyer needs to be under contract. They're moved out of state, they're moving out of the country, they need to close in 2 weeks. Okay, now you got my attention. There might be a story there that allows me to get it more, you know, at a better price than a homeowner would be willing to. But see, if you don't know any of that stuff and you're just like shooting from the hip, don't waste your time on those properties on the MLS. Again, I say because it's on the MLS. If that was a homeowner that you got through the lead system and they contacted you and it needs very little work, hey, there's no competition. You're the only one there in front of them. You may be able to get it for the price that you need. See how those are two different situations? Okay? Usually by the time it gets to MLS, you've probably already had 50 investors look at it the very first, or at least look at the listing, not necessarily look at the house. Or you probably had 50 investors in the area at least look it up right away on that. And probably homeowners, you probably could even be more homeowners within that first week already looked at it. Okay, brokers that are looking to buy houses, they've already looked at it. So there has to be something in there that you could leverage in order to make it a good deal for you. Like we bought a house, give you an example, it was on the MLS. It was in, somebody went to the, I know Juan, you did, and a few others, went to the property tour at on Turner Avenue in Evergreen Park. The first one, it basically just got in and got the roofing done. Again, that was on the market, that was on the MLS for $115,000. We got it for $50,000, which is very rare. Our angle was, the reason we were able to get it is because we kind of knew the story behind it. Number one, it was inherited by family members that were all over the country. I don't even know if any of them were even local anymore. So it was family members that all just wanted out of the deal, wanted it, and they had a foundation, not really a foundation issue as much as they had a floor joist issue in the basement that scared a lot of people away because the floor went like this. And even the upstairs has a little bit of dip that we need to take care of. Well, homeowners were afraid of it, so we didn't really compete with homeowners. And rookie investors, or maybe that don't like to do extensive rehabs, and a lot of unknowns, and I get that, they backed out of it. So we were like the only ones negotiating that deal.
Nice.
So, anyway, we were able to get it, but again, it was a problem. We solved the problem, so we were able to get, you know, a great deal on it. Okay, so here's what I do. When I'm looking at the MLS, I do a couple things. So I'll just show you a couple tools that you have here. So let's say I am gonna buy a house, and I won't put a specific address in there since we're doing these properties in Evergreen Park. I'll just put Evergreen Park in there. I assume everybody's been on Realtor.com, right? All right. So it calls up the properties, the most relevant. So this first one, it's in no specific order. Sometimes right here, relevant, I say that word, listings is the order in which it's in, but you can change this. So one thing I do, and this sounds so simple, but you can imagine how many people don't look at it this way logically. I go to the lowest price. I go from low to high. So I want to know, the other thing is it's going to call up different types of properties. I want to just look at single family homes. So let's just look at single family instead of everything. And you could put bedrooms, bathrooms, and stuff like that, but I won't do that necessarily. But look, so the lowest price home, there's one for 66, 68, 69. So I look at, but look, you see a trend here? Pending, pending. Okay, this one's not, so jump on it. 3 bedroom, 1 bath, better look at that, okay? Now, keep in mind that there's a strategy used more, I think it's more prevalent now with brokers, is they'll actually list the price a lot lower than what they expect to sell it to. It used to be, oh, you sell it high, and then you can always come down. And I do that a lot on my flips. But on the sales side, houses in this condition, what they want to do is get all the investors competing on it. So I've seen this many, many times now. So just be aware, I'm not saying that's going to be the case with this house, but they'll put a house that's maybe worth, usually I've seen them where they may be worth, let's say, 80,000, and they'll list it for like 40. And you know, we want best and final offers in by, you know, the 15th or something like that. And I showed up at a property like that, and when I pulled up, there was like 10 investors already there walking through the property the day it came on the market. And then while we were there, probably 5 more came. And it was listed for, I think it was listed for 40. We made an offer at 63. And I think it sold for about 73. Okay? So just know that doesn't mean that, you know, that this is the top number and that you are going to get it. You still have to do your due diligence and do the checking. But again, at least it's a possibility, right? I look at this like, you don't want to buy the nicest home, or the, you know, the most expensive home in the neighborhood. You want to buy the least expensive home and then fix it up to that level where there's a profit. So anyway, but look at all the ones that are pending at this low price point. And then what I'll also do is when I get to that low price point, I'll also just scan here as well and see. I think, Dave, is that the one we looked at California? That might be it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, probably the ones we just got on the contract should be in here. And then what I'll do is I'll